Okay, so I believe that got started. Hopefully it did. So we're going to talk about expressions and formulas. This should be something you know. Obviously, some of you may be new to my class. If you are, welcome. If you're not new, thanks for coming back. Anyways, just kidding. So we're going to talk about Algebra 2, 1-1. So this should be review of a lot of stuff from algebra, but we're going to talk about it and get through it as quickly as we can. So first off, I'm going to define variables, which you should already know in Algebra 2. But a variable, most common one we use is x. In this, book, we might use y. There are times we use t, but they are just letters we use to stand for some number. We're not going to go over PEMDAS a lot. We'll do a little bit, but not a lot. But right now, I hope you know that that stands for parentheses. Well, I'm going to put parenthesis. Exponents. Multiply, divide, and hopefully by now you also know you can do those in either order, meaning you can do division first or multiplication, doesn't matter. And then last but not least, addition and subtraction, which once again you can do those in either order. Okay, so assuming you know that, we can get right into the actual math here. So I'm going to clear that, scroll down. So this equation right here, m plus parenthesis 3 minus q squared. There's a simple, all it wants you to do is it wants you to take the numbers that it tells you those variables stand for and plug it in. Once again, this is just basic stuff because it's wanting you just to remember what a variable does. So we have 12 plus 3 minus a negative 1 squared. The parentheses, what's inside the parentheses we're going to do first, right? Because of PEMDAS. Once again, because of two negatives, hopefully you know that makes a positive. And then the teacher's walking in my room. Oh.
I went in the wrong one. I was going to the teacher's lounge.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
One more down.
So, sitting here with 12 plus 4 squared. Next thing we do is exponents. Technically, once you do what's inside the parenthesis, we don't need the parenthesis anymore. I just always leave it because it's good to remember that you do the exponent next. Last thing, obviously, is the addition. Gets me a 28 right there. So your answer is 28, and we're good to go. I'm not gonna do all of these because I'm hoping that you can figure most of them out yourself. But take the 4, plug it in for the h. That negative 1 goes in wherever there's a j. That's a 0.5. So I'm gonna write a half. I just can't get a half to show up very well on the Word documents. So that's why I put 0.5. So negative 1 squared minus 3 with a 4 squared and a half on top, divided by negative 1 to the third plus 2. So negative 1 squared. I'm gonna work left to right and do the first thing I can. Usually, so like here, since there's no actual parentheses to work with, there's only exponents, like there's nothing inside a parenthesis to work with, I'm just going to hit my exponents first. So negative 1 squared is 1. And then 4 squared is 16. I'm going to leave the parentheses for the ease of it. And I wrote too close to the edge. Move that over a little bit. 1/2. And then negative 1 to the third, well, negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. So positive 1 times another negative 1 would make negative 1. Then I'm going to notice real quick that that's 1, right? Because on these, like this here, technically, even though there's not a parenthesis, you can think of it as there's a parenthesis here and a parenthesis here. Or I could use brackets since there are a lot of parentheses already. Meaning you need to do those sections first, which you probably already know. But, just a quick review. So, now I'm going to multiply all this stuff together because multiplication comes first. Inside that parenthesis that's on top. So, 3 times 16 is 48. 48 times a half is 24. Obviously, if you can't do that as quick as I can, that's fine. Hopefully, you know that if you have a 1 on bottom, you might as well have nothing on bottom. You might as well not write it. So, we end up with just 1 minus 24, which is a negative 23. Ooh, that was weird. Okay, I could go over this, but this one's once again pretty simple. Plug the 1 in, plug the 4. We do what's inside, so 1 minus 4 is -3. Take -3 to the third power, add 3, and you have an answer. Okay, a formula is usually a defined equation that represents a known situation or equation. I guess equation again. So, but a known situation. So, like the gravity equation, or acceleration due to gravity is 1/2 times 9.8 times the amount of time squared that it's in the air. You probably don't know that equation yet. Maybe some of you will. Let's think of another easy equation is like the y equals mx plus b. An equation you should recognize in Algebra 2. That's the equation for a line. So, nice, simple. It's a defined equation that represents the graph of a line. So that's what a formula is. So like the formula for the volume of a rectangular prism, we know it is that from geometry. Volume equals length times width times times height. So all we have to do is plug in those values. So if we find the length, a width, and a height, we can just plug those values in to find the volume. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 3.5 is 24, 28. And if you remember your label rules, I had feet. I multiplied 3 things, so it's cubed. Formula for the area of a trapezoid is area equals, or A equals 1/2 H times the quantity of B1 plus B2. So once again, if you know your H, B1, B2, then you can plug those values in and find them. So here it says the base lengths are 13 and 25, and the height is 8. So all you have to do is plug those in the right spot. So I'm going to call that one B1, this one B2, and that's obviously my height because it said it's the height. And good equations will tell you, like H is the height, B1, B2 are the measure of the bases. So usually it's nice and easy. Sometimes they expect you to know that H stands for height, but a lot of times the equation will tell you somewhere what B1, B2 are. In this case, you could also note that 25 plus 13 is the same, right? So technically either one of these in either order doesn't matter. So 13 plus 25 is my parentheses. So I add those first. You get 38 times 8 times 1/2. I like to deal with the half first because it makes my numbers a little smaller. So half of 8 is 4. Change colors real quick. 4 times 38. 120, I think that's 144. Is that right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's correct. So I'm in meters. So area, hopefully no area is something squared. Once again, I wrote that too close to the edge, so I'll move it so it's a little easier to see. Okay. All right, if you have any questions, you can always email me or come see me in the morning. Otherwise, have a good evening, and I will see you soon. Okay, that's